thank you so much for the support in helping me not only reach 1,000 subscribers, but helping me reach YouTube partner as well. I literally could not have done it without any of you guys, and I really can't thank y'all enough. It really means a lot to me. I always look forward to reading the comments, as you guys have provided insight on the video itself, what you liked about it, your opinions on both senseis, and future video ideas that you'd like to see. Keep the comments rolling, as those definitely help the YouTube algorithm, and in turn that will also help me be able to make more videos for you all. Without further ado, enjoy the video. Robbie, without a doubt, is a very interesting character in the Cobra Kai series. Once arguably the top student of Miyagi-Do, he has since fallen from grace after not only critically injuring Miguel Diaz, but also joining John Kreese's Cobra Kai dojo at the end of Season 3. You definitely wanted to root for Robbie because he had turned away from his life of crime, but as we saw at the end of Season 2, old habits die hard. It really makes you wonder if Robbie was doomed from the start. This is my theory on why there was no hope for Robbie, and some of the early signs you may have missed on how he eventually would have ended up under Kreese's wing. Let's do a quick recap of what we know about Robbie so far. Born on February 4th, 2002, Robbie is the son of Shannon Keene and Johnny Lawrence. Robbie is abandoned by Johnny due to his drunken depression over the loss of his mother. Shannon went on to raise Robbie by herself while Johnny paid child support. Over time, Johnny would try to reconnect with his son, but due to Shannon being rightfully bitter over Johnny giving up on Robbie, she would go on to partly influence Robbie's relationship with Johnny as mentioned in Season 2. Robbie would be very lost without stable parent figures in his life, as his mother Shannon gives up on trying to keep Robbie in school and decides to bar hop and take drugs. During the beginning of Season 1, we learn that Robbie is a delinquent, and when not skipping school and doing drugs, he hangs out with Trey and Cruz and participates in their criminal activity. At one point after his argument with Johnny about not going back to school, Robbie attempts to visit the Cobra Kai dojo but spots his father bonding with his student Miguel Diaz. Robbie then comes up with the idea to work for Johnny's longtime rival Daniel LaRusso in order to get back at his father. However, Daniel and Robbie soon form an authentic bond, as Daniel becomes a mentor to Robbie and even manages to get Robbie on the right path, through the same lessons that Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel many years ago. After Johnny and Daniel almost form a friendship, Robbie reveals himself as Daniel's student to Johnny and Johnny's son to Daniel. Daniel forbids him from coming around, and Robbie goes on to compete unaffiliated in the All Valley tournament. Daniel forgives Robbie and mentors him during his match against Miguel in the finals. Miguel wins only by fighting dirty, and after the tournament, Robbie goes on to help Daniel fix up the Miyagi-Do dojo, as Daniel plans to take the fight to Cobra Kai. During Season 2, which takes place right after the All Valley tournament, Robbie trains all summer under Daniel alongside Sam and other new students such as Dimitri, Chris, and Nathaniel. Shannon, Robbie's mother, also abandons Robbie during this time, and Robbie is taken in by Daniel and Amanda. It is during this season that shows Robbie at his most balanced. This is evident when he and Sam defend Dimitri from Hawk and Cobra Kai, confronting Trey and Cruz for stealing wallets at the country club, looking after Sam during and after Moon's party, and even goes on to form a relationship with Sam during the end of the summer. However, this comes to a screeching halt during the first day of school. Tori, Miguel's then girlfriend after he and Sam broke up, reveals that Sam kissed Miguel at the party, which Sam was trying to tell Robbie before they went to class. This starts an all-out brawl between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, and although Robbie attempts to mediate between Sam and Tori, Miguel assumes that Robbie is trying to hurt Tori and begins to attack Robbie. Near the end of the fight, Miguel gains the upper hand and pins Robbie down, almost breaking his arm. Miguel remembers the difference between mercy and honor and lets go of Robbie's arm. However, Robbie is unfocused and loses his balance due to his feelings of jealousy and anger at the fact that Miguel and Sam kissed, and attacks Miguel, causing Miguel not only severe injuries but also putting him into a coma. Season 3 opens up exactly 2 weeks after the school fight with Miguel, still in a coma, and Robbie is on the run. Daniel convinces Johnny to help him look for Robbie. Daniel wants Robbie to turn himself in so his lawyer can build a better case for Robbie and get him a lighter sentence. Daniel manages to track down Robbie after the van Robbie stole leads to a dead end. Robbie is then arrested and sent to juvie. Daniel tries to convince Robbie this is for his own good, but Robbie feels betrayed and refuses to take any of Daniel's calls. Robbie tries to find support in Johnny, but after finding out that Johnny went to support Miguel instead of showing up for his visitation with Robbie, Robbie once again wants nothing to do with Johnny. During all of this, Robbie is antagonized by Sean, who not only beats him down, but eventually takes most of Robbie's bedding and unplugs the computer when Robbie attempts to respond to Sam's email. Robbie gets a visit from John Kreese, Johnny's former sensei, and is advised that Miyagi-Do may save him in a tournament, but striking first is more effective in the real world. Heeding this advice and remembering the stories about his father as told to him by Kreese, Robbie fights a much more aggressive style and manages to get revenge on Sean and his friends. As Robbie is released, he at first rejects both Johnny and Daniel's offers for a place to stay, but changes his mind and visits Miyagi-Do, only to be filled with anger once again at the sight of Sam and Miguel together. After a brief confrontation and almost attacking Miguel, who has barely recovered from his injuries and relearning to walk, Robbie seeks out Kreese, who offers him a place to stay and teaches him more of Cobra Kai's style. To Hawk's dismay, as Hawk is upset that Robbie is allowed into Cobra Kai due to Robbie injuring former student Miguel, Robbie gains the approval of his Cobra Kai peers by capturing the snake for Sensei Kreese without a snake pole and before security catches them. During the final episode, we see Robbie fully brainwashed by Kreese, which saddens both Johnny and Daniel. Robbie attempts to attack Johnny but is knocked out and does not witness Kreese attempting to kill both Johnny and Daniel. After Sam and Miguel interfere, Robbie wakes up and tells all of them to leave, cementing his status as a member of Kreese's Cobra Kai. So the question is, what exactly led to Robbie's downfall and why is there no hope for him as of Season 3? Well, one of the primary factors is Robbie's repeated abandonment by not only his parents but by his mentor Daniel. Johnny abandoned Robbie on day 1 and Robbie highly distrusts Johnny because of this, despite Johnny's repeated attempts to make it right. Shannon, Robbie's mother, is also responsible for his broken relationship with Johnny. It is very evident during Season 1 that although Johnny is genuinely trying to repair his relationship with Robbie and also wanting to prevent Robbie from going down the path he is on, Shannon brushes this off due to her justified bitterness of raising Robbie alone and continues to partly influence Robbie not to repair his relationship with Johnny. In Season 2, although Shannon promises that rent will be paid by her new boyfriend Rick while they go to Cabo, the utilities and rent go unpaid, forcing Robbie to live in the apartment with no lights until Daniel invites Robbie to live with them. While Daniel managed to keep Robbie on the right path for quite some time and forgave him initially for lying to him about being Johnny's son, Daniel once again does not want anything to do with Robbie after finding Sam at Johnny's apartment and fighting Johnny. Daniel says it was a mistake to give Robbie a second chance, and if he wants to end up like Johnny, that's his choice, and leaves with Sam. Robbie owned up to the fact that it was his idea to take Sam to Johnny's in the first place. You can see the hurt in his eyes as Daniel leaves. His mentor that helped him find balance in his life has cast him aside a second time, leaving Robbie to the familiar feeling of being unwanted once again. Leading up to his arrest and during his time in juvie, Robbie feels betrayed both by Daniel and Johnny. Daniel apologizes for what he said to Robbie and feels terrible about letting him down and promises to help Robbie. But Robbie feels abandoned by Daniel a third time when he is turned into the police. Although Daniel is trying to get Robbie a lighter sentence and have the lawyer make a better case for Robbie injuring Miguel, Robbie wants nothing to do with Daniel. Johnny misses his visitation appointment with Robbie when Miguel's grandmother convinces him to stay and pray for Miguel's surgery. And to make matters worse, Robbie finds out that Johnny, who wants to help both Miguel and Robbie, stayed at the hospital with Miguel. After Johnny states that it is Robbie's fault that Miguel's in the hospital anyway, Robbie no longer speaks with Johnny. However, there is one person who took advantage of this vulnerability and brings us to our next topic of discussion, John Kreese. Here is where things start to get complicated. By the end of Season 2, Kreese took over the Cobra Kai dojo from Johnny due to his deal with Armand and his rightful claim that he, along with Terry Silver, started Cobra Kai. It is implied that Kreese had either planned to take back Cobra Kai for himself all along, or convinced Johnny to join him in restoring Cobra Kai back to the same level of ruthlessness as seen in the 80s. There were also some very subtle hints that he wanted Robbie to join both him and Johnny, or train Robbie on his own and make him a top student, much like his father Johnny was. In the Season 2 episode Fire and Ice, Kreese overhears Miguel and Hawk confronting Johnny about Robbie being his son. Although Johnny confirms Robbie is his son, he also states that it has no influence on how he runs his dojo. After classes ended for the day, Kreese vocalizes his opinion that Daniel should not be training Robbie. Johnny responds by saying it won't ever happen, that Robbie won't ever train under him. In the episode All In, after they both teach class for the day, Kreese once again brings it up that Robbie should be in Cobra Kai and how Johnny needs to follow the lessons that he teaches. He should try harder to train Robbie. It is in the following episode, Take a Right, where Kreese acts on his plan and begins to teach his students the original version of Cobra Kai and begins to undermine Johnny. At the end of the episode Lull, Johnny confronts Kreese about his outdated teachings and the difference between no mercy and no honor. One interesting thing to note is that Kreese tells Johnny, I see what's going to happen. You're going to let your guard down and that's going to leave you vulnerable. On the surface, this could refer to either Johnny letting his guard down and Kreese ends up taking the dojo, or when Johnny backed down from Daniel confronting him in front of the Cobra Kai dojo. However, there's a third meaning to this statement. By letting his guard down and not being able to prevent Robbie from going down the wrong path, Johnny is left vulnerable because he has lost his son to Kreese. This is exactly what plays out in Season 3, and Kreese again subtly warns him about this before visiting Robbie. In the Season 3 episode The Right Path, Kreese confronts Johnny at the bar and tries to persuade Johnny that he's only looking out for his best interest. Kreese tells him another statement that has a double meaning, and when our boy comes back, well, we'll help him get him up on his feet. Johnny hears the end of the statement and assumes it is about Miguel because of, we'll get him up on his feet, as Miguel may not be able to walk again and is about to be released from the hospital following surgery. However, because Kreese's 3 minutes are up, it is actually Robbie who he is referring to, as we see Kreese visiting Robbie at the end of the episode. In the following episode, Miyagi-Do, Kreese tells Robbie about his father's success as the top student of Cobra Kai. Although Robbie is at first not swayed by Kreese's stories and sees through his facade, Kreese correctly deduces that Robbie's Miyagi-Do style is not doing him any favors in the fights that he gets in, and as mentioned above, mentions that he needs to strike first in the real world. In my previous video, How Reunited Apart confirmed Robbie joining Kreese, I analyzed the part of the fight where Robbie is able to escape out of Sean's chokehold by using the wall as momentum, in a very similar way to how Johnny and Kreese teach the students to get out of a chokehold in the Season 2 episode All In. Up until this point, Robbie has never done anything this acrobatic, nor outside of a lighter chokehold put on him by Miguel in the school fight, been in a situation like this to know how to get out of it. It is very evident that he is taking Kreese's advice to heart about striking first and utilizing offense. As the cuts switch back and forth between his fight with Sean and Miyagi-Do's fight with Cobra Kai at the laser tag, he is constantly pressing the attack compared to his prior fights, where he would utilize a more defensive approach, as is the philosophy taught to him by Miyagi-Do. I doubt that Kreese would have been able to physically teach him how to shift momentum out of a chokehold without raising suspicion of the correctional officers, so we can assume that Kreese must have verbally taught him how to via storytelling of how Johnny was in a similar situation. As mentioned above, Robbie at first wanted to give Miyagi-Do another try, but left after seeing Sam and Miguel together. Another detail to note is that Kreese advised him that he should not blame himself for the fight between him and Miguel, because Robbie did attempt to mediate between Tori and Sam. However, Robbie still was ultimately responsible for injuring Miguel, and because of listening to Kreese about his opinion on their fight, he does not ever once apologize for injuring Miguel during his confrontation with Sam and Miguel at Miyagi-Do. After leaving and because the advice of striking first presented to him by Kreese actually worked, Robbie has no issue seeking him out and is given a place to stay for the night. In the episode Feel the Night, Robbie is more than willing to learn from Kreese's technique until they are interrupted by Hawk and the rest of the Cobra Kai. Through Tori, Kreese is also able to reach Robbie as she recounts her sensei advising her that if you channel your hate, it will make you stronger. Kreese also expresses that Robbie is exactly what Cobra Kai is looking for, as he demonstrated fearlessness and leadership in retrieving the snake. In the episode December 19th, Johnny confronts Kreese for his students attacking Miguel and his friends, and is heartbroken that Kreese has fully convinced Robbie to join Cobra Kai, very much in a similar manner how Daniel in Karate Kid 3 goes to confront Silver and finds out he was working with Mike Barnes and Kreese the entire time. Kreese reveals that he plans for the 3 generations of Cobra Kai to take over the valley, and Robbie also tries to persuade Johnny that Kreese knows best. Robbie manages to throw Johnny off of Kreese and states that Kreese has taught him that he cannot be his own worst enemy, but Johnny can be, and tries to attack Johnny before being neutralized by the locker. Even after the fight between Kreese and Daniel, Robbie still stays loyal to Kreese, and it is implied that he will represent Cobra Kai at the next All Valley tournament. What also makes Kreese's plan so effective is how Robbie is not much different from Johnny. Johnny did not know his father, and because of Sid's abuse, Johnny sought out a father figure in Kreese when he joined Cobra Kai. Kreese was successful in molding Johnny into his top student and many other students to live by the creed of strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Outside of the callback of Robbie injuring Miguel's knee, much like how Johnny did to Daniel in 1984, Robbie's genetics that he inherits from Johnny is what also gives him an advantage. To expand on this, obviously martial arts ability cannot be passed down from generation to generation via bloodline, but things that could make a great martial artist, speed, reflexes, strength, intelligence, etc., can be passed on. Now yes, when Johnny joined Cobra Kai in 1979, he was very skinny and had no muscle, but by the time we see him chronologically in 1984, he is very athletic due to have been training for the past 5 years. The same thing can be said about Miguel in Season 1. At first he is very skinny, has asthma, and virtually has no martial arts ability, but by the time of the All Valley tournament, has put on muscle and is a very skilled fighter. In fact, let's compare Robbie to other fighters in the Cobra Kai series. He has more muscle and definition than Hawk, Dimitri, and Miguel, and is maybe only rivaled by Kyler. Daniel even notes Robbie is a natural, and could also be implying that his athletic ability gives him an edge. Robbie is also very intelligent in a number of ways. He is verbally agile in situations such as posing as an electronics employee, lying to Amanda about taking photos of a car to send to an adjuster so he can video her passcode using his front-facing camera, and also fooling Amanda that he sprained his ankle so he could bust out of Sam from quote-unquote prison, deducing that Amanda would be too busy with the reports to drive him home. Another example of his intelligence is his intuition when it comes to learning Miyagi-Do. Robbie is very able to quickly teach himself how to perform the two-legged Miyagi-Do kick. While this could be a callback to Daniel observing Mr. Miyagi performing the crane kick and then teaching himself how to do it, the huge difference here is that Daniel was not able to master the two-legged kick at all, noting that only Mr. Miyagi was able to perform it, and the only time that Daniel got close outside of today was in his 20s, and Daniel has been practicing Miyagi-Do for 34 years. Robbie has learned how to do that kick in a very short amount of time, and while we don't know how long he has been training with Daniel, we know Season 2 picks up right after the All Valley and takes place during the summer, and we know there's a time jump during the Season 1 episode Counterbalance because Miguel is now training after his Halloween fight with Kyler's gang, and we see Christmas decorations, so we can assume at most maybe 6 months that Robbie has been training with Daniel. A very impressive time frame to learn a kick that even your master can't do. And last but not least, Robbie is able to quickly understand the meaning behind the lessons that Daniel teaches him. For example, the bonsai tree representing that what he wants his future to look like, and an unintentional lesson about a toggle bolt representing that Robbie can't do everything alone. Now the final question is, could there be a redemption arc for Robbie in Season 4? In my opinion, it is possible, but very unlikely. The reason why I say this is that Robbie himself expresses beliefs on people and their ability to change. In the Season 2 episode Take a Right, Chris, Nathaniel, and other Cobra Kai switch over to Miyagi-Do, and Robbie is initially very reluctant to let them join because Chris was with Hawk, who was trying to beat up Dimitri. Robbie goes on later to say to Sam that Daniel should not have let them in. Sam says that her dad wants to help them change, but Robbie responds that they won't and you can't change the way you feel. In the Season 3 episode Nature vs. Nurture, when Daniel talks to Robbie says something very similar in, "You were right about it being a mistake to help me because I can't change," still feeling guilt over injuring Miguel and going back to his old ways. In a way, Robbie proved his beliefs to be true. Although he found balance, used karate for defense only to defend others, tried to convince his father that he and Daniel could learn from each other, and came clean about the medal among many other good deeds he did, he could not change and reverted to his old ways by losing focus and injuring Miguel, went on the run and stole a van, and once again started on the wrong path. I think we all want Robbie to come back and abandon the wrong path, but only time will tell what will become of him in Season 4. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Robbie will redeem himself in Season 4? Let me know what you'd like me to talk about next. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing, as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching. As always, stay beautiful, stay awesome, and we'll catch you around next time.